In every corner of the world, there are secrets. Stories that have existed beyond understanding, patiently waiting. And we've come to uncover those secrets, to venture into places where darkness never ends. Welcome to Dynamic Dark. Welcome to a brand new horror episode. Welcome to episode 60. I'm Aditya and today I bring you 3 terrifying haunted stories. New stories, new week, new fear. In our last episode, episode 59, we explored creepypasta horror stories. If you missed it, the link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. So, let's begin episode 59. If you are new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell if you dare to see what comes next. Today we'll explore 3 haunted stories, each terrifying in its own way. The first story is the empty hospital wing. The second story is the examination hall. And the third story is the mall after midnight. If you love horror like this, then you are in the right place, because only on Dynamic Dark will you experience creepypasta style horror blended with real psychological and haunted elements. For the best experience, put on your earphones or headset. Let the darkness, the suspense, and the fear consume you. If your room lights are on, turn off the lights for cinematic and scary experience. Now, let's begin today's first story, the empty hospital wing. Everyone knew about the hospital's west wing. Not because it was written anywhere. Not because there were warning signs. People just knew. It was the part of the hospital no one talked about, yet everyone avoided. Long corridors that seemed to stretch farther than the building itself. Endless rooms with doors that were never fully closed. Lights that stayed on day and night, as if turning them off was never an option. During the day, it looked normal. Doctors passed by quickly. Nurses avoided eye contact. Patients were never assigned there. And after midnight, no visitors were allowed inside. Officially, it was for maintenance. That's what the staff said. That's what the administration repeated. But maintenance doesn't explain why elevators skipped that floor. It doesn't explain why wheelchairs left near the entrance were never moved again. And it definitely doesn't explain why the air changed the moment you stepped inside. The west wing smelled different. Not like medicine. Not like disinfectant. It smelled old. Stale. Like a place that had been sealed for years but somehow never forgotten how to breathe. People who worked night shifts avoided looking in that direction. They walked faster when passing the entrance. Some even crossed themselves without realizing it. There were stories. Whispers exchanged during late tea breaks. Rumors that ended with uncomfortable silence. They said the corridors felt longer at night. That footsteps echoed even when no one was walking. That sometimes, if you stood quietly, you could hear beds creaking. As if patients were turning in their sleep. But no one ever went to check. Because everyone who stayed near the west wing after midnight felt the same thing. The feeling of being watched. Not from one direction. From everywhere. Cameras were installed there years ago. They stopped working within a week. New ones were added. Those stopped too. No footage was ever recovered. Just hours of static. And occasional shadows passing too close to the lens. Security guards refused to patrol it alone. Even experienced ones. Men who had worked night shifts for decades. They said the lights flickered without reason. That doors opened slightly, then closed again. That sometimes, from the far end of the corridor, someone could be seen standing still. Not walking. Not moving. Just standing there. No patient records mentioned the West Wing anymore. It simply didn't exist on paper. Yet every night, at exactly the same time, the lights inside turned brighter. As if something was waking up. As if the wing was preparing for visitors it hadn't seen in years. That night, during my shift, I stood at the entrance longer than I should have. The corridor looked endless. Too clean. Too quiet. And for the first time, I realized something disturbing. The West Wing wasn't abandoned. It was waiting. During my night shift, I was assigned to patrol the West Wing. I remember pausing at the entrance, staring down that endless corridor. The air felt heavy the moment I stepped inside, thick, stale, as if it hadn't been disturbed in years. The lights flickered slightly, casting long, wavering shadows on the polished floor. The corridor seemed longer than it had been during the day. Doors stretched endlessly on both sides, each slightly ajar, as though inviting me. Yet something about that invitation made my stomach twist. Every room I passed seemed occupied. Not the usual hospital activity, mind you. No whispered conversations. No machines beeping. Only stillness. Patients lay motionless, staring at the ceiling like statues. Some appeared pale, almost translucent under the flickering lights. Their eyes wide open, unblinking, fixed on a spot above. And yet none of them moved, none of them breathed. I slowed my steps, trying to convince myself it was fatigue or the dim lighting playing tricks on my eyes. But then I noticed something subtle, something impossible. Shadows, or rather, shapes that didn't belong to anyone. Dark human silhouettes standing quietly by the doors, completely still. I blinked, and they didn't move. I turned my head slightly, and they were still there. The corridor stretched farther with every step I took. Rooms that should have been close together seemed spaced wider apart. The air felt colder, yet heavier, pressing against my chest. My footsteps echoed unnaturally, like I was walking in a hall 10 times bigger than reality allowed. I passed a room where a bed lay empty, or so I thought. A black figure stood silently at the foot of the bed, head slightly tilted. I froze, heart hammering. A faint shiver crawled down my spine, and I knew I was not alone. Somewhere further down, a door slowly creaked open, though no breeze stirred the air. The faint flicker of light inside revealed more of those motionless figures. Standing in the corners, sitting on beds, leaning against walls, all silent, all watching. I forced myself to keep walking. 1 step. 2 steps. Each step felt heavier than the last. The corridor, it kept stretching, as though it were alive, as though it didn't want me to leave. By the time I reached the midpoint, I realized I couldn't see the end. The corridor, normally 100 feet long, seemed infinite. And every room I passed, occupied by those still, pale figures. Eyes wide, faces emotionless. Silent watchers of a wing that should have been empty. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. Every breath I took felt like inhaling decades of dust, decay, and something far older, something alive. And in the far distance, at the very end of that corridor, a shape shifted. Not moving aggressively, just turning its head slowly. And I realized, slowly, that it was following me. Every room I passed whispered a silent warning, every figure a silent threat. And in that instant, I knew the West Wing wasn't just empty. It had been waiting. I stepped closer into the West Wing, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. I'm Lucas, the night shift security guard, and I had been told this wing was safe to patrol alone. But nothing about this place felt safe anymore. No breathing. No heart monitors beeping. Only silence. The kind of silence that presses down on your chest and makes you second-guess every step. The corridor seemed longer than ever, stretching into darkness that felt infinite. Rooms lined both sides, doors slightly open, and inside, motionless figures. Patients lying perfectly still on their beds, staring at the ceiling. Eyes wide open. Unblinking. No life. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. Fatigue. The dim flickering lights. But then, I heard it. Footsteps. Soft at first. But there were too many. Echoing behind me. Pacing. Stopping. Pacing again. I spun around. Nothing. No one. Just the empty hallway. But the footsteps continued. Closer. Then farther. Then closer again. I froze, gripping my flashlight tighter. The beam fell across the corridor, illuminating the still figures, their shadows stretching long across the floor. And there, standing perfectly still at the end of a room, a black silhouette. A human-shaped figure, taller than normal, edges sharp against the flickering light. I knew it wasn't one of the patients. The corridor seemed alive, stretching unnaturally with every step I took. I tried to move forward, but my legs felt heavy, as if the shadows themselves were holding me back. The footsteps, they were synchronized now. Hundreds, echoing in perfect rhythm behind me, yet no one visible. I reached the middle of the wing, breathing shallow, trying not to scream. Every patient turned their head slowly toward me. Eyes wide, faces blank, like statues awakened by my presence. The black silhouette from earlier, it was now closer. But still no movement, only watching. The fog drifting along the corridor floor swirled around my feet, rising slowly, obscuring the lower halves of those standing figures. I could feel a cold presence press against my back. The footsteps had stopped. And in the silence, a whisper echoed. "You shouldn't be here, Lucas." My flashlight flickered. The corridor stretched farther than I could see. Every door revealed more of those still black figures. Watching. Waiting. And somewhere deep inside, I realized I had walked into a wing that never wanted visitors. At the end of the corridor, I froze. A figure stood perfectly still. A nurse, or at least that's what she appeared to be. But nothing about her was human. She faced the wall, her posture rigid and unnatural. The flickering lights cast her shadow across the corridor, pitch black, impossibly tall, stretching almost to the ceiling. Even standing there, she seemed wrong. I inched closer, careful not to make a sound. The air felt colder here, heavier, pressing down on my shoulders. Every step echoed unnaturally, bouncing off walls that now felt farther apart. Her head tilted slowly. Then she turned. And my flashlight caught her face, or rather, the absence of it. completely dark. No eyes. No nose. No mouth. Just a void where a human face should have been. I swallowed hard. Tried to move, but my legs refused to obey. She took a single step toward me. The shadow stretching behind her grew longer, filling the corridor with darkness. The fog drifted around her feet, curling upward, partially obscuring the black silhouettes of other motionless figures in nearby rooms. I could feel the weight of her presence, suffocating yet silent. The hallway seemed to shrink. Walls pressing in. Ceiling looming higher. Everything else faded, the still patients, the black silhouettes, they all felt distant. She was the center of this nightmare. Then she spoke. A whisper that carried through the still corridor, cold and hollow. You weren't admitted, Lucas. Her voice wasn't loud, but it shook me to the core. I wanted to run, escape, but my body was frozen. The fog thickened around me, wrapping me in its icy grip. Her shadow merged slightly with other dark figures, yet remained distinct, tall, looming, undeniable. I realized she wasn't angry. She wasn't pleading. She was the guardian of the West Wing, the keeper of a place that should not exist. This wing didn't just hold shadows. It held the ones who were never meant to leave. And now, I was becoming one of them. The corridor felt alive. The flickering lights stuttered and dimmed, plunging sections into darkness. I could feel the hum of electricity vibrating through the walls. Suddenly, every patient I had passed turned their heads toward me simultaneously. Their eyes wide, unblinking, their motionless bodies now seeming aware. A chill ran down my spine as I realized they were watching me, every single one. Then it happened. From their bodies, black shadows rose, stretching upward, detaching slightly from their forms. They hovered for a moment, silent, sinister, different from any I had seen before. Some stretched tall and thin, others hunched, some floating slightly above the floor, all humanoid but distinct, each shape unnervingly unique. The corridor itself seemed to warp around me. Walls began closing in, narrowing as if the building itself wanted to trap me. I turned to run, but the exit, it had vanished. Doors I had passed before were gone. Windows now reflected endless darkness. It felt like the West Wing had folded in on itself, creating a labyrinth I could never escape. The fog thickened, curling around my legs, obscuring the shadows rising toward the ceiling. Every echo of my footsteps multiplied, bouncing around infinitely. The shadows began to drift closer, silent and patient, their forms shifting slightly, each one more menacing than the last. I tried to scream, but only a whisper came out. My flashlight flickered violently, casting long, erratic shadows. The black nurse from before had moved, her void-like face now visible even in the dim light, and she floated slightly above the floor, looming over everything, overseeing the chaos. The corridor twisted, stretching into infinity. The ceiling pressed down, the walls converged. There was no exit, no escape. The air was thick, suffocating. And every shadow waiting for me. I realized then that I was completely alone, yet surrounded. And the wing, it wasn't just haunted. It was alive. Every heartbeat felt like a drum in a tomb. Every breath pulled in the fog, the dust, the darkness. And the shadows, they whispered silently, promising I could never leave. I ran forward, but the corridor had changed again, endless and unyielding. And at that moment, I knew the West Wing had claimed me. The first rays of sunlight cut through the early morning hatch. I opened my eyes and realized I was lying on the cold pavement outside the hospital. The west wing loomed behind me, silent and sealed, its doors bolted, windows down. A large, faded board near the entrance caught my attention. It read, "Closed 15 years ago, mass casualty incident." I blinked, trying to comprehend what had happened. The corridor, the black ghosts, the nurse, had it all been real? Or just a hallucination brought on by the long night shift? My hands moved to check my uniform. And that's when I saw it. A small patient tag stitched onto my chest pocket. The name printed on it, mine. A chill ran down my spine. Everything I had experienced in the West Wing, the endless corridors, the rising black ghosts, the fog, the shadows, the nurse, suddenly made sense. Not as a nightmare, but as a warning. I looked back at the sealed hospital. The silence was deafening. No lights flickered, no sounds echoed, no movement. It was like the wing itself had never existed, yet it had claimed me. The fog that once haunted the hallways seemed to linger in my mind. The footsteps, the whispers, the dark figures, they weren't gone. They were a part of me now. And as I stumbled away, the morning sun barely warming my skin, I knew one terrifying truth. The West Wing didn't just hold shadows. It kept its visitors forever. I was no longer just a night shift security guard. I was one of them. The second story is the examination hall. It wasn't just any hall, it was massive, stretching farther than I could see. Hundreds of desks neatly lined in rows, hundreds of chairs pushed in perfectly under them. The polished floor reflected the dim, flickering lights above, making the hall feel endless, almost unreal. That night, I was the only one inside. The heavy doors groaned as they closed behind me, and a draft swept across the endless rows of desks. The air smelled faintly of old paper and dust. I paused, a chill running down my spine. Every step I took echoed loudly, bouncing off walls that seemed impossibly far apart. The desks and chairs cast long, shifting shadows, stretching unnaturally across the floor. It was too quiet, too still. No ticking clocks, no rustling papers. Nothing, just silence. Then I noticed a faint whisper, almost indistinguishable, coming from the far end of the hall. I strained my ears. The polished floor reflected something, a shadow flickering quickly at the edge of my vision, but when I turned, nothing was there. The fog began creeping along the ground, curling around desk legs, rising slowly as if alive. The hall seemed to breathe, as if the silence itself was waiting. I, Nathan, had expected nothing but emptiness. Yet with each step, I felt hundreds of unseen eyes on me, following my every move. The more I walked, the farther the hall stretched, the more unreal the space became. And as I stood there, alone amidst hundreds of desks and chairs, I realized. This night, this hall, it was not truly empty. It was alive. As I walked forward, the hall felt wrong. Every step I took echoed far longer than it should, bouncing off walls that seemed impossibly distant. The rows of desks stretched on endlessly, multiplying as if the hall itself refused to end. The air grew heavier, colder, carrying a faint metallic scent that made my stomach churn. Every flickering light above cast long, shifting shadows across the polished floor. It was subtle at first. A whisper, like the soft brush of movement at the edge of my vision. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was imagining things. But then I noticed it. The walls seemed to bend slightly outward, stretching the room unnaturally. A chair at the far end rocked gently on its own. A desk drawer slid open without a sound. And through the fog creeping along the floor, I saw black ghosts, humanoid, upright, distinct from story 1. Hovering silently among the desks, their forms shifting slightly, some tall and thin, others hunched or floating just above the floor. I froze, heart hammering, gripping the strap of my bag. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the massive hall, but every time I turned, the ghosts seemed to shift, always just at the edge of sight. It felt like the hall itself was alive, breathing, watching, waiting. With each step, the polished floor reflected 100 tiny shadows, like unseen eyes following me from beneath the desks. The fog wrapped around the legs of the desks, rising slowly, curling like mist alive with intention. I, Nathan, realized this hall wasn't just empty. It was aware. And as I continued deeper into the examination hall, I understood the night had only just begun. Without warning, the hall shifted. Desks began sliding across the polished floor, moving as if guided by invisible hands. Chairs scraped back violently on their own, some clattering with a sharp echo that made me flinch. Then I noticed it: answer sheets. Every desk, every chair had one. All perfectly aligned, untouched by human hands. The papers seemed to shimmer faintly under the dim, flickering lights, as if they were waiting for someone to fill them in. I stepped back, my heart hammering. The floor beneath me reflected shadows of something more than just the furniture. From between the desks, black ghosts emerged, humanoid but unique from story 1 and 2, some tall and thin, others hunched or floating just above the floor, drifting silently, surrounding me without a sound. The fog curled around their forms, moving unnaturally, partially obscuring them yet emphasizing their presence. Every movement felt deliberate, purposeful, as if the hall itself was orchestrating this display. I, Nathan, felt trapped. Every step I tried to take forward was met with more sliding desks, more shifting chairs, more papers appearing out of nowhere. The whispers returned, faint at first, then growing louder, echoing from the far corners of the hall. I tried to call out, but my voice faltered, swallowed by the immense, silent space. The black ghosts moved subtly, repositioning themselves among the desks, watching, waiting, guiding the chaos. The massive examination hall felt alive now, every object and shadow part of a supernatural choreography designed to ensnare me. And I realized, this night, this hall, it wasn't just aware. It was controlling me. Every polished surface reflected their dark forms, multiplying them in my vision. And as I froze in place, heart pounding, I knew I was no longer walking through an empty hall. I was walking through a living nightmare. I heard footsteps. Not one pair. Not two. Hundreds of them. They echoed across the massive examination hall, row after row of desks amplifying the sound, yet no one entered through the doors. I turned sharply, scanning the aisles. Every entrance was still, locked, silent. The footsteps continued, perfectly synchronized, measured, as if an invisible crowd was walking in place. Then I noticed the chairs. One by one, they began to fill. Not with people, not with bodies, but with black figures. They appeared already seated, upright, motionless, occupying the empty chairs as if they had always been there. Each desk now had something sitting behind it. Head forward. Hands resting on the table. Waiting. They were not moving. Not breathing. Not making a sound. Yet the presence was overwhelming. I stepped backward, my heel brushing against a desk. The sound echoed far too loudly, and in response, every single figure turned its head toward me at the exact same moment. No faces. Only smooth, dark forms where faces should have been. The footsteps stopped. A heavy silence fell over the hall, thick enough to press against my chest. The fog near the floor thickened, drifting between the rows like it was alive, wrapping around chair legs, curling up toward the desks. I realized something horrifying. These weren't random. They were arranged. Every black figure sat perfectly aligned. Same posture. Same distance from the desk. Same angle of the head. Like students prepared for an examination that would never end. I moved down an aisle slowly, afraid to breathe too loudly. As I passed, some figures subtly shifted, not standing, not reaching, just a slight tilt of the head, tracking me. Watching. Judging. The lights flickered once. When they stabilized, there were more of them. Chairs that had been empty seconds ago were now occupied. Even the back rows. Even the corners I hadn't looked at yet. I whispered, "Who are you?" No answer. Instead, a low sound filled the hall, not voices, not words, but the faint scratch of something moving across paper. I looked down. Answer sheets. Pens had appeared in the figures' hands. They weren't writing. They were waiting. Waiting for me. My heart pounded as I understood the truth settling in my gut. This hall wasn't abandoned. It was full. And I was the only one not seated. A bell rang. Every black figure picked up a pen. Hundreds of pens began writing by themselves. A deafening scratch filling the hall. And I realized. The exam had started. I ran. I don't remember how I escaped. Only the sound of pens still scratching behind me. Later, I learned the truth. Years ago, this examination hall collapsed during an earthquake. An exam was in progress. Hundreds of students were inside. No one had time to submit their paper. No one had time to stand up. No student ever submitted their answer sheet. And no student ever left. And the third story is the mall after midnight. My name is Oliver. The mall was enormous. 4 massive floors stacked above each other. Endless rows of shops stretching farther than the eye could follow. Glass railings. Shuttered stores. Silent escalators. At the center stood a giant glass atrium, rising all the way to the ceiling, reflecting the darkness like a black mirror. During the day, this place was always alive. Music. Footsteps. Voices. Laughter. But after midnight, it was supposed to be empty. No customers. No security announcements. No movement at all. Just dim emergency lights glowing above closed stores. And the soft hum of electricity echoing through the massive space. Every sound felt louder here. Every shadow felt deeper. And as I stood alone under the glass atrium, staring up at 4 floors of darkness, I realized something was very wrong. Because an empty mall should never feel like it's watching you. I was the last person inside. The automatic doors had already closed behind me with a soft click, leaving the mall in near complete darkness. Then, the escalators started moving on their own. Smooth at first, then faster, as if unseen feet were riding them. One floor lit up. Then another. Emergency lights flickered, followed by overhead store lights turning on one by one. Shutters slowly rolled up with a low metallic sound, revealing empty shops. Mannequins stood frozen in their displays, but somehow they felt like they were staring. The polished floor reflected every flicker, every shadow, stretching them across the wide atrium. The mall was no longer silent. Subtle mechanical hums echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the glass railings and empty walls. I took a cautious step forward, my footsteps strangely muted. It felt like the mall itself was awakening. And I wasn't supposed to be here. Something was very wrong. Every floor, every store, every shadow seemed aware. I couldn't believe my eyes. People started walking out of the stores. At first, just a few mannequins seemed to step forward. Then more. Dozens. Then hundreds. All perfectly aligned, moving in neat rows through the wide corridors. Each carrying shopping bags, as if they had just finished a late-night spree. But there was something terribly wrong. They didn't talk. They didn't laugh. They didn't breathe. Every step echoed softly against the polished marble, but their silence was absolute. The escalators carried more from above. Glass elevators opened on their own, spilling more silent figures into the atrium. Their eyes empty. Faces smooth, featureless, black like shadows. I tried to step aside to avoid them, but the crowd seemed endless. They filled every floor, every corridor, surrounding me without a sound. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't alone in the mall anymore. I had walked straight into a gathering that had never left. A calm voice echoed through the atrium. Clear. Polite. Artificial. Please exit the mall before closing time. The announcement repeated, smooth and motionless, bouncing off the glass walls and open floors. Instantly, everyone stopped. Shopping bags froze mid-swing. Footsteps died out at once. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise before it. Slowly, too slowly, heads began to turn. One by one. Then together. Every black figure in the mall turned toward me. Hundreds of them. From every floor. From every corridor. From behind glass railings and dark storefronts. They didn't step closer. They didn't move at all. They just stared. I felt it then. That the announcement wasn't meant for them. It was meant for me. And whatever had filled this mall after midnight didn't want me here when closing time arrived. Their shadows detached from their bodies. They stretched across the walls and ceilings, crawling over glass and concrete. The exits vanished. And in that moment, the mall felt sealed. I woke up outside at Sunrise. The mall was shut down. News called it structural issues. But through the glass doors, I saw the crowd still shopping, waiting for closing time. So that was the end of episode 60 of Dynamic Dark. If these chilling tales and haunted stories made you shiver, tell us in the comments which story kept you awake tonight. The most terrifying comment. I, Aditya, will pin it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell so you never miss our next descent into the unknown. And share this video with your friends and family if they can handle the fear. Have a haunted location, creepy encounter, or urban legend to share? Drop it in the comments. The idea with the most likes will be featured in our next episode. Episode 61 is coming soon, where we will dive deep into creepypasta horror stories, uncover darker mysteries, cursed places, and secrets that linger where the shadows never sleep. Stay tuned, keep watching, and dare to explore the terrifying unknown with Dynamic Dark every episode at 7:45 p.m.